Good afternoon, everyone. It's Andy Deyell, your Vice President for Institutional Advancement, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular web series where we check in with our alums across the U.S. and see what they've been and see what they've been doing since their time here at 1180 Delaware. I am joined today all the way from Los Angeles, California, by Shawn Ries. Shawn is a graduate of the class of 2000, and he is a screenwriter out in L.A. Shawn, how are you today?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Shawn, I know I've known a little bit more about you. We met when I was out in LA recently, and you have a really interesting story to tell. And I think I find that our alums that, have a little bit more of an uncommon path are always the most interesting alums. And your story is one that I think that we should tell and need to tell to our alums, because I think there's a lot of people that will be very interested in what you do for a living and how you got there. So let's go back in time. If you're a graduate of the class of 2000, that means you started at Canisius in 1996. Where'd you go to grammar school? Where'd you grow up? And how did you hear about Canisius High School?
Well, I grew up in, I was born on Long Island, but moved to Buffalo when I was 5, I think. And we grew up in Clarence. So I went to Clarence Center Elementary and then Clarence Middle School and Canisius for high school. I chose Canisius, just my grandfather had gone there, and so that's how I knew about it. And there wasn't any real, I don't know, I don't have like a great reason why I picked Canisius. I just kind of did, and I'm glad I did. I loved it, but yeah. So grew up in Clarence, and yeah, that's how I found my way.
And so when you were at Canisius, who were your big influences? Like who were the teachers that had the greatest impact on you, and why?
Well, there were a lot. I mean, so the main one I'll say is Father Van Dyke was he was my the first teacher I met, because he was my like homeroom teacher freshman year, and then my English teacher, I also had him for homeroom sophomore year. So he really challenged me, we'll say. Challenged me to challenge myself. It was the first time I really kind of had that from a teacher. And being a writer now, I will say I do not make grammatical errors in my scripts, thanks to Father Van Dyke.
I'm sure he'll be glad.
Yeah, that's something that I really got a good foundation for the mechanics of writing, the grammar and all that stuff, but also how to write and be interesting, I guess, is something that I took away from that.
How to be interesting. That's great. And so what kind of clubs or extracurriculars were you involved in when you were a student?
I was on the wrestling team. That was sort of my main thing. And yeah, Coach Mike Mazzaro was the coach. I still am in. I talk to him often. Still, he's the best.
That's a wrestling royalty at Canisius High School. His brother Tori was in my grade in 1991, and that whole family could wrestle.
Yeah.
That's a character building sport for sure.
Yeah. That whole family was. Tori was an assistant coach too for a couple of the years. So yeah, I know all of them.
That's great. And then from Canisius, you went on to, I believe, Syracuse University. Is that correct?
Yep. Went to Syracuse University. I double majored in marketing and broadcast journalism, neither of which I'm doing now. But I loved Syracuse. It was a great experience there. I worked on like the student TV station. I was doing like sports stuff. That's what I thought I was going to do, was be a sports broadcaster. But I decided sort of midway through that I liked being a fan more than I liked doing it for work. And so I'm sure this is something we'll get into, but yeah, I found my way into screenwriting and the entertainment side of TV kind of post college. And while I was working on like the TV station there, I was doing, I worked on a show that covered the football team and the basketball team. We won a national championship while I was there, which was very exciting. One of my friends recently sent me a picture of me with interviewing Carmelo Anthony. But yeah, so I toward the end of my time there, I decided I wanted to kind of work more in the entertainment side of the business. So
Is there an event or sort of, so what was the germ for that? Like how was that seed planted? The shift from, I know you and I have talked about this because I had a very similar background and broadcasting was going to be my thing. Unfortunately, I have a face for radio. So I got out of the idea of being in sports and broadcasting much for the same reason you did, that I was more interested in being a fan than I was working in the field.
yeah.
And so what made you turn towards writing? Was there an event or some person you met?
I don't think there was one specific thing. It was more, I always just enjoyed doing like segments for the shows that were funny. Like I like making people laugh, and that was I guess I don't know if you have this in my record, but I worked jug almost every single day my freshman year. I was yeah. So anyway, but I was always like trying to, I was always leaning kind of that way. And, as I kind of was coming toward the end of my college career, I was like, well, I got to figure out what I'm going to do. So because that was sort of, I was like, let's give it a shot. I happen to know somebody who was working on a small, like tiny independent film in New Jersey the summer after I graduated. So I spent the summer in New Jersey, worked on that movie, just kind of doing like, intern PA production assistant work, just helping out on set, just to see like, is this something I'm actually interested in? And I loved it. I had a great summer. I did it with one of my best friends from Syracuse. And at the end of the summer, we decided, okay, let's give it a shot. So me and that guy drove out to Los Angeles together. And, we didn't know we knew a couple people that had also gone to Syracuse. And so like drove out to LA, slept on our friend's floor for a week till we found an apartment of our own.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
You've been there ever since. And so you're married, you have kids right now.
Yep.
Now your wife, did you meet her out in LA or did you meet her at Syracuse?
We met at Syracuse. She also worked on at the student TV station. She also, she stuck with the sports thing. So she works in sports now. She's a director at the NFL Network. So she's actually currently in Arizona for the Super Bowl.
Should she join you in LA right away, or is that something that happened?
She was a year under me in school. So she came out. She actually worked as an on-air reporter for a year in a tiny town in Missouri, and decided she wanted to move behind the camera after that. So she came out about a year after I was in LA.
And so you end up in LA, you're starting your career. There's probably some starts and stops along the way, but at some point you land writing for Family Guy, which is a very well-known, so I would call it, an adult cartoon, but kids love it too. I don't know how you would describe that, but that's something that a lot of us know. So tell me a little bit about how you end up at Family Guy and sort of your role with that. And that show was on the air for how long?
Yeah, Family Guy, it premiered in 1999 and then got canceled for a year or two and then was brought back. So I got to LA in February of 2005. I was working, so I came out in like the entry level jobs in the entertainment business are called you're a PA, it's a production assistant, and your job is to basically do errands for people, pick up lunch, make coffee, make copies, things like that. And
Yeah.
it's like working jug, clean up after people. So you know, I got out there and I worked a couple small production assistant jobs. And my first kind of like real sort of steady job was as a production assistant on Family Guy. So I worked there as a PA for a couple of years. And that's where I kind of like met a lot of people, you know, like one guy I ended up writing with as a writing partner. And we still work together on some things. And anyway, so I was there for like 2 years, and then I left to try something new because obviously Family Guy's animated. So I wanted to work on a live action show also, just to, you know, see. And so I left Family Guy. I bounced around on a few other shows, and working as a PA all the while, and writing scripts in my sort of free time. That's kind of how you break in, is you write something that somebody notices and passes up the, you know, passes up the chain of command. So me and this friend of mine who I had met at Family Guy, were writing scripts together, and we wrote our first one that got attention was a spec script, meaning just sort of like an example episode of the show 30 Rock.
Uh-huh.
And that did what it was well received by some writers we had met at Family Guy who we had passed it off to. And then we wrote a like a spec script. You know, we wrote another script that got us our first writing job, which was on a little show called Alan Gregory, which was also a adult animated show that lasted for 6 episodes. But from that, once that ended, a spot opened up on Family Guy, and we were hired there. So I worked on Family Guy I was on staff there for 5 years, and then I left, and I've been kind of bouncing around a little since. I've recently sort of, the line is a lot more blurred now than it used to be between features and TV. So, but I've been kind of doing more feature stuff lately. Yeah, that's kind of where I am now.
News, really exciting news. Yeah, you have recently developed a script that is going to be made into a movie. Can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's made into a movie. There's a million things that could go wrong between now and then, but we did just sell. I wrote a script that we just sold, had optioned by a company that they are hoping to make. So that is, again, we're early stages of that. A lot of things can go wrong between now and then. It is yeah.
What does that feel like to produce something that, you know, somebody might make into a movie?
It's so okay. So this business, it's really hard to get excited about anything, because you take a lot of lumps, right? Like I mean, you take a lot of lumps.
You hear no more than you hear, yeah, more than you hear, yes.
Yeah. For every, like, you know, 100 no's, maybe you'll get a yes. You hope. Right. So, you know, just getting that first step is very exciting. Having somebody, you know, wanting to buy a script from you is very exciting. So that's great, and they are hoping to make it. So, you know, we'll see. They're getting into you know, casting and kind of very early pre-production development stuff now. So, you know, we'll see. Cool. But hopefully, if all goes to plan, we'll hopefully be able to get into production this fall.
We'll be pulling for you. That's really exciting news. As you know, as you look back on your time at Canisius, can you reflect on anything, you know, lessons you may have learned that have sort of served you well as an adult?
It's a long time ago. No, there's a lot of that, like, foundational stuff is like it really laid a good foundation for like the academic stuff, like grammar and writing and all that. But then also, I mean, honestly, Jug was great for
Right?
learning how to be a PA. But but yeah, a lot of that foundational stuff of just sort of like, one thing that was great is I know it's like this is going to sound so corny, but I was very well prepared for college, so I was able to so corny to say. But anyway, when I got to Syracuse, I did well in classes in a way that I was able to kind of like focus more of my effort on the extracurriculars, and the extracurricular, like the TV station is where I really kind of like learned everything. Not to discount going to class, but I don't like for to be a writer, like you don't need like the paths there are not traditional like academic paths. It's not like I had to go to like medical school or something. So so it's yeah, it allowed me to kind of like focus on that other more hands-on stuff. And that's kind of really where I fell in love with making
I think a
stuff.
lot of people learn by rolling up their sleeves and doing, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
getting in the studio and getting, I mean, theoretical context is great. And it's, you need it in everything, but most of us, hit our stride when we're actually out doing things, not
Right.
classroom's great. And so it also, as you look back, geez, you've got to be about 40 years old now, right?
I am
So
exactly 40
well,
years
you're
old.
40 years old. So, you're not a kid anymore. And so when you think back to your, the last 20 years, any advice come to mind that you'd like to give to your, past self, or any of the kids, that are Canisius today, or any of our young alums who maybe want to get into screenwriting, want to become writers, any advice you could pass along to them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a writer, you got to be willing to, like I said, take those lumps, and it's not easy. It's really hard to hear no over and over again and keep kind of churning forward. But um, be patient. That's very important to like not, like things take things take a long time. Big picture, like in terms of, it takes a while to like be ready as a writer to kind of like take those steps, but then also, like just things aren't going to happen right away, and they always take longer than you expect. So be patient and be willing to kind of like allow the process to play out. And
Awesome.
also I'll say too, just sort of which ties to that, is you don't have to know what you want to do right away. I obviously didn't. I went to college for two things that I'm not doing now. And you know, you don't you can figure that, give yourself time to figure that out. Don't put that pressure on yourself that you have to know exactly what you're going to be when you grow up, when you're 15 years old. I certainly didn't. And this is a little therapisty, but don't tie your self-worth to your work. That's something that I think is again, in a business like mine, which is really brutal sometimes. You can start to, you question yourself a little bit, and that's not that's not who you are, so like that's something that it takes a while to kind of learn, because things feel very personal, but it's not. It's just the business. And I'm sure, I don't know, I've never done anything else, but I'm sure that that's the case in other you know lines of work as well.
That's all three really, really good pieces of advice for our alums and for kids that are
Oh,
listening.
also surround yourself with good people.
That's huge.
That's I mean, when you're in LA, there's you gotta find a good crew and help them keep you grounded.
Great, great advice. So thinking a little bit about the future. What are some of your future goals? I know you have, we're holding our breath and keeping our fingers crossed that this screenplay gets made into a movie, but what are some of your other sort of long-term goals that you have in your career?
As a screenwriter, things are so sort of gig to gig that it's hard to really plan too far ahead. But I hope to continue doing this. That's something that you have to kind of be aware of, is that, there comes a time when it might stop, it might go away, but you hope that you keep getting that next job. You keep, you write a script that so to keep doing this as one, and that feels very short-sighted, but you do have to be short-sighted a little bit in this. It's hard to think too far ahead. Yeah, that's a hard question to answer, to be honest.
You answered
me.
beautiful. I mean, it really is. You really did. I mean, when you're talking, when you in your role in your job, it's, you got to live in the moment, right? You got to be focused on the moment to get the next thing, and it's hard to think too far sort of in advance, but that's fair.
Yeah, it's hard to do, and it's also one of the reasons it's hard to answer is because that answer is constantly changing. Like there's and the business is changing a lot too, which is making it difficult to plan too far ahead. Like if I were out here in the 90s, you could be a sitcom writer and have many houses spread all over, like it was just a different time, where TV was a little more lucrative. Now things are shifting to streaming. We're moving away from network television, and shows last for a shorter amount of time. They make less episodes of them. It's, movies are changing a lot too. It's kind of like, I mean, you see it, everything's a Marvel movie or a reboot of something that came out 20 years ago. So things are changing a lot. I don't think that, we as writers, as other people in the industry, we don't exactly know how the dust is going to settle yet. So, trying to figure out how to continue to do it is a goal in itself, I think. So yeah, and you kind of change what you want as you go. Like there was a time where it's like, oh, I want to have my own show. That's not, that sounds great, but it's also what that means is a lot different now. So yeah, it's like honestly constantly evolving, and it's hard to, it's really hard to kind of like pinpoint something like that.
Well, we're pulling for you here at Canisius. It's really great to hear that you're, experiencing so much success out there, and you're doing some cool things, and that you're living your dream. Because not everybody gets to do that. So thanks for spending, a few minutes with us today and catching us up about your story. And we hope to see you around the school when you get back to Buffalo in the future.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Shawn.
Of course. See you later.